So Nate's going to give the talk, but I'm going to read the guidelines first. So we have the intensive guidelines, and then we'll have the talk. Intensive guidelines. 2025 September Appamada Integrated Intensive. Welcome to the September 2025 Appamada Integrated Intensive. This intensive opens the fall practice period on this theme. How do we transmit the Dharma in our thoughts, words, and deeds? The practice period ends with Nate's Dharma transmission ceremony talk on November 16th. We're so glad you could all join us for this intensive. Practice intensives are a gift we create for ourselves and for each other. It is a gift of space, silence, respect for each person's containment, and an expression of mutual care through our work and practice together. Please take advantage of this rare opportunity by bringing yourself wholeheartedly to your practice every moment. Make every effort to mindfully maintain silence, except during practice discussion, group inquiry, and any question and answer following talks. During the work period on Saturday, keep silence except for the briefest possible questions or discussions necessary to the work. John Eric will be the work leader. Please do not make eye contact or signal each other, protecting each person's practice. This itself is a very difficult and demanding practice. But as we are taking the backward step, as Dogen puts it, and turning our light inward to rest in mindful awareness, we provide for each other the protection and support for this shift. Please follow the schedule completely for all activities. Schedules are posted in various locations, and I think you got sent the schedules. Did you get sent the schedule? Okay. Some people did not get the schedule. We can send it again. So please do not make, okay, follow the schedule. Be on time for Zazen, for work practice and talks. Silence all of your devices or leave them in your car. Take good care of your space, keeping it neat and orderly. It is your home for the intensive. And in some cases, it's your home the rest of the time as well, right? Before you leave the Zendo, make sure your cushions are straight and aligned and that any personal belongings are neatly arranged. We sit facing the center of the room the first sitting period and the last sitting period of the day. For all other Zazen periods, please face the wall. During the day, please continue your normal daily activities with genuine mindful attention. One of the great benefits of integrated intensives is the experience of merging our practice and our regular lives, weaving them together throughout the week. There may be some optional outdoor walking meditations in the morning, weather permitting. That will be up to the morning timekeeper to announce. You think that's a good idea? So follow the timekeeper out of the Zendo and listen for the clappers to return. Notice the natural tendency to scatter your energies when in a transition from Zazen to standing, from meditation periods to work periods, from Appamada to home, in meals and breaks. Be alert and curious about whatever is arising without any attempt at manipulation whatsoever. So please try to be on time for all activities. You may change to a chair or get an additional cushion or support during any break, including walking meditation. Please place the chair on your sitting cushion, as you see Clayton has done. You may also use the restroom during walking meditation. Please wait for the second clapper that starts the walking meditation before leaving the Zendo. So there's two clap. The first clapper is just to get in position and get ready, get prepared to, and then the second clapper is to start walking, and that's the time to leave. Intensives work by containing the energy we normally dissipate in our distractions and busyness. For the next few days, please use this opportunity well by refraining from reading or using the computer or the phone except when absolutely necessary. You might consider what you define as absolutely necessary. Allow yourself to be immersed in the silence and stillness as much as possible. This is the best way to fully experience this gift of time and space. Beginning tomorrow, Nate and I will offer practice discussion on alternating days. Monday, Thursday, and Saturday will be online. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday will be on site. You should have received the schedule in email, and for on-site folks, it's also posted in the kitchen. If you have a problem with your scheduled practice discussion time, we'll do our best to reschedule, but we can't be certain that's possible. We have a little bit of flexibility in the schedule, and we'll see how we can work things out. Again, this is a precious opportunity to deepen your practice and receive the greatest benefit from this intensive experience. Please bring yourself wholeheartedly to your practice, right here and right now. When it is your time, please proceed directly to the practice discussion room, open the door, bow towards the altar, then come to the cushion, do a standing bow, and sit down. We will not be ringing people in. Online, you'll leave the Zendo, the online cloud Zendo, and use the Zoom link that you've been sent to connect at the appropriate time. That's a separate link. Then you'll return, and the monitors will let you back into the Zendo. Is that clear? Okay, you will see one of us each day, so please focus your attention on your practice so that we can use our time together wisely. Please remember that our Zen practice is to leave no trace. Be attentive and keep the space well. Be mindful to keep the tea area neat and clean up after yourself on Saturday when we'll have a tea table. Please label a cup with your name and use it for drinks during the day. There's filtered water in the refrigerator. Please don't use the water in the refrigerator door. I'm not really sure that the filter's working. It was just changed? Oh, that's good. Then you can. All right. But I never know for sure. If you have a water bottle, please be sure it's labeled with your name as well. We want to make sure that we get everything back to the people who own them. There'll be tape and pens, probably in the kitchen, I think, if we can find any good pens. Wash your own cup as needed. So take good care of yourself. Please drink plenty of water and stay hydrated in this really warm weather. Take good care of others in support of each person's practice. We will all be doing various jobs to help support the whole intensive. Check on your role assignments, which are posted in the kitchen. Please be mindful of the roles and jobs you are assigned and be sure to show up on time for these responsibilities. If you're not sure how to do a particular role or job, or if you have questions, please ask the work leader, John Eric. There are first aid kits in the kitchen, and there's ibuprofen in the bathrooms should you need them. If you have any questions, if you feel ill or distressed, please talk with John Eric, Nate, or me. During the day, we'll email some reflections, so please check your email around the middle of the day. We'll be sending some reflections out for folks. And of course, you may discuss anything that arises for you during the intensive in practice discussion. If you, I think we have a block of time on Saturday in the afternoon. If you need to request practice discussion, that's a time we probably would be able to manage. Okay. All right. John Eric will have some suggestions for online folks in terms of work practice. And so everyone will be part of the work practice period except the morning timekeeper. Everybody will have a task or something like that. Okay, enough. It's your turn. Enough of guidelines.
Hi there. So good to see all of you. It was lovely to be here this morning for Peg's Dharma talk. Some of us got to enjoy that. And it's lovely and strange to be giving a Dharma talk right next to you. So thank you for this. I'm looking forward to it. So you may have noticed from the lovely script that's on your card that we will be exploring this idea of the work that reconnects, right? And this is from the work of Joanna Macy. And so as we dive into this, I wanted to give a little bit of overview into who she was and some things that might be interesting to frame our practice together. I didn't get to ask you this, so I wanted to ask as we dive in, how did you come to Joanna Macy's work? Like, how did you chance upon her first?
I think when I was really doing studies of ecosystems, when I was working my dissertation,
Yeah.
Well, first with mutual causality, because I was doing a lot of research on complex systems, and that was that book. So.
Yeah. So, and I encountered mutual causality here, learning about it for the first time, and then ended up using it for my dissertation. So it's this we are both huge fans of Joanna and Macy, so we get to we're delighted to be able to offer this. So I have some things prepared, and I'll deviate as I see fit. But first, I want to thank you for stepping into the room and into this practice at a time when it feels like the world can be fraying at the edges. In particular, in light of recent events, it feels like that can feel heavy right now.
In the middle.
Mm-hmm. Feels like it's fraying in every particle at this point. When we gather in a moment of widening polarization, when public discourse hardens into slogans, when violence is so common and so ignored, when climate records break month after month, and when many of us feel the subtle pull to retreat into distraction or despair, or at least if you're like me, I've certainly felt the tug. It's easy to narrow our attention, to defend a small patch of certainty, to numb ourselves against what feels unbearable, with work, a screen, other distractions. But here we are, choosing another way. This intensive is our chance to turn toward life rather than away from it, to look directly at the conditions of our time and to stay awake together. Our focus over these days will move along two braided streams. One of the work is Joanna Macy's work in Coming Back to Life. So if you have seen this lovely green book, we'll be referencing that. If it's not on your shelves, I highly recommend picking it up. And her book names both the sort of sense of peril and possibility of our current moment. And the second part of that is our practice of shikantaza, just sitting, which is the heart of our tradition. And at first, when Peg suggested this, you might be having the reaction that I'm having is, how do these two things overlap? And then as we started to talk more about it, it became so clear. Now, why pair them? Because Macy's vision and this practice are not two projects, but two expressions of the same truth. Macy shows us that the ecological crisis and the social breakdowns we face are not separate from our own hearts and minds. Shikantaza invites us to sit in the very web she describes, to let the whole tangled catastrophe, the whole mess, reveal itself without grasping or turning away. And together they offer a path of engagement that is neither passive acceptance nor frantic fixing, which is what it feels like we gravitate towards on the poles. Maybe you might locate yourself quickly and go, oh, am I a fixer or am I an avoider? They invite us to dwell in the intimacy of interdependence and to act from that intimacy. So in the days ahead, we'll explore Macy's work that reconnects a spiral of gratitude, pain, new seeing, and going forth. We'll also return again and again to the simplicity of sitting, meeting each breath, each sound, each ache in the knees, each twinge in the back, whatever your particular flavor is, as the living proof of interconnection. Our aim is not escape, nor is it mere analysis. It is to touch moment by moment the reality that nothing stands alone, and from that touching to discover the courage to live and serve the world as it is. So as we settle in tonight, I invite you to feel the significance of this gathering. In a culture of speed and distraction, to sit quietly together is an act of resistance. To open to the pain of the planet is an act of love, and to entrust ourselves to the simple practice of just sitting is to take part in what Macy called the great turning, the slow, steadfast work of coming back to life. You might not think of sitting on a cushion as a revolutionary act, but it might just be the thing that serves the world entire. So I want to give a little bit of background on Macy and who she is, if you're not as familiar or steeped in her work. So when I think about her, I think of a person whose life showed us how to meet suffering in the world with care and aspiration. She was born in 1929 in Los Angeles and raised in New York. And as I've read about her and understand from her biography, she was drawn to the poetry and the natural world were the places where she felt kind of alive. Um, and so after graduating from Wellesley and with a degree in biblical history, which I didn't know this, I looked this up, she traveled widely, and in India, she encountered Tibetan refugees, an experience that opened her heart to Buddhism and set her on the path that she would follow for the rest of her life. Her academic work was as deep as her activism. At Syracuse, she completed a doctorate in religious studies and writing her dissertation on the parallels between Buddhist teachings of mutual causality or dependent origination, as we talk about here, and the emerging field of general systems theory. And she was seeing clearly, what a lot of folks are just beginning to intuit at the time, that the Buddhist teaching of dependent co-arising and modern science's study of living systems were pointing to the same truth. That nothing exists on its own, that all things arise in relationship. That's something that's, I don't know if that was when you first came to Appamada, but I can remember the very first day I sat somewhere over here, facing that way. Peg was there, talking with Sonny Brown. It was the first conversation I ever had with someone at Appamada, and I thought, relationships are here. Something is infused here that I want to know more about. So Macy's activism grew kind of out of this insight that we're all connected unavoidably, inextricably. In the midst of the Cold War anxiety and looming threat of nuclear destruction, she began to hold workshops that help people face their despair. These despair and empowerment meetings gathering evolved into the work that she called the work that reconnects. That's how she's talked about it until the end of her life. This work moves in a spiral. It begins with gratitude and then invites us to honor our pain for the world, to see with new eyes, and to finally go forth with clarity and courage. Macy spoke of this as the Great Turning, a shift away from what she calls the industrial growth society toward a life-sustaining one. She was also one of the clearest voices in deep ecology, a movement that insists that all beings, rivers, forests, animals, even mountains, possess value in themselves. Not out of their sense of like utility because of what they do for us as a human species, but just having inherent value of their own right. With her colleagues, she wrote Thinking Like a Mountain, which helped to bring these ideas in the wider culture. And in her book, World as Lover and World as Self, she described the ecological self, the recognition that our true identity is not the isolated ego, but the vast web of life itself. That's who we actually are. We just forget. And to realize this is to understand that our grief for the world is the measure of our belonging, and our actions on behalf of life arise from love, not from duty. Macy taught at places like Naropa, and she taught at Starr King, the California Institute of Integralist Studies. But more than just being kind of an academic, she was a guide and a healer to many. And she reminded us that spiritual practice and ecological action aren't separate at all. They're actually entwined. And she just passed away this past July at the age of 96, leaving behind not only her books, but a legacy of people who are carrying on her work, carrying on her legacy, and choosing to face the world with open hearts. And so whenever I think about her, whenever we start to think of the world as our larger body, I was actually thinking about this as between things this morning as I got home, and I was outside playing with Parker, my son, for a little bit, running around, and all the freshly cut grass and looking at the sun spilling over the horizon for a minute and go, right, that's what she's talking about. This is where that is. So when I think about her work, she's gifted us with language and ways of relating and understanding to something that we often already know but struggle to name. So when I first encountered, I was talking about this with Peg at lunch. When I first encountered mutual causality, the first time I read it, I'm like, I don't get it. I don't have any idea what the heck this thing is. And I didn't really understand dependent origination here as we're talking about all this change stuff was just at a loss for me. I don't know, maybe that was your experience too. A little heady and weird. And then it started to shift as I had a direct experience of the impermanence and connectedness of things. And then I started to reread her, and then suddenly it's like a light went off. And I started to see what was possible in her work. So her book, Coming Back to Life, is as a guide not for how to practice this remembering, to remember how connected we actually are. It's not simply a book of ecology or a manual of psychology or even Buddhist reflections. Though it certainly carries a lot of those themes and ideas, it's a little more than that. It's a map for how to stay awake in a world that gives us every reason to go numb. I don't know if you, in the wake of recent shootings and recent events, sometimes numbness tugs. And Macy is an invitation to avoid that. She has this great line in the first chapter. She says, we can still opt for a life-sustaining world. And the emphasis in her language is on opt. We can choose something. It's not inevitable that everything goes to hell and falls apart. The direction of our society, our economy, our culture have been one of denial and extraction of what she calls business as usual. And yet, at the very same moment, another choice is possible. I'm going to have you write about this in a minute. And she names 3 stories that contend for our attention. The first is the story of business as usual. Then there's the story of the great unraveling. And then finally, the story of the great turning. So I want to frame each one of those, and then I'm going to give you a chance to reflect on which one of those kind of resonates with you for right now. Business as usual tells us that growth and consumption are endless, that technological progress will solve any problem, and that the earth is a warehouse for our desires. The great unraveling is harder to ignore. Climate disruption, extinction, collapse of system, it can lead us to despair or paralysis. You start to see things falling apart. That's in the space of unraveling. But Macy calls us to remember a third story, the Great Turning, a civilizational shift already underway where we begin to transition from an industrial growth society to a life-sustaining one. It's not a fantasy. It's visible in movements for ecological justice, renewable energy, regenerative agriculture, and spiritual awakening, like here, right now. This is part of it. The choice before us is whether we will participate in this turning or whether we will continue to lean into old stories until they crush us. Macy invites us to see that we're all living inside competing stories about our time. So we're either business as usual, whispering to us that growth and consumption are endless and that technology will solve it all. The great unraveling, that everything's kind of falling apart. And then finally, this last piece of a great turning, some possibility that we can actually move on. So that's what I'd love for you to reflect for a moment. So can you mind passing out the writing pieces? And folks who are online, if you have somewhere you can write for a couple of minutes or jot something down, that would be great. So here's what I'll invite you to reflect on. Think about these 3 stories. Business as usual, the great unraveling, or the great turning. Maybe more than one might speak to you. Which feels most alive for you right now? You can pay attention to it in your body. You can pay attention to it in the stories that you're telling yourself. But if you think about these 3, what feels alive for you right now? And I'll invite you to write for just about 8 minutes or so. And I would encourage you not to pick up your pen. Don't think too much. Just see what spills out and falls onto the page. You might be surprised. So we'll write for about 8 minutes.
The second one, could you say it again?
Sure. The first is business as usual. The great unraveling. And the great turning. All right, finish your last thought. And before I go on, I'd invite you to go back and actually read what you wrote. Maybe find a line that surprises you or strikes you, something that's pops in your own from your own mind. And if I were teaching in my classroom and you were actually my kids back when I was a classroom teacher, I would have had you, when you get stuck, repeat the last word that you wrote until a new word comes to you, and then cross it out. So sometimes if you ever want to do that, you can try that out. It's very weird and very fun.
Or you can write, I don't know what to say right now. I'm completely stopped. I have no idea what I should be saying. And you just keep writing.
Just keep writing whatever.
Present moment experience.
Yeah, it's very fun.
You said to keep writing the last word.
Yeah, so like if you got then sometimes I'd have kids who'd hand me the, and then something falls out because they get so sick of thinking about the one word that they've written. So it's fun. But as you look at your own words, I'm just curious for your reflections. What's popping in your own, as you consider these three possibilities?
I'll go first. I feel like I'm being caught, what I said, what is resonating in my mind and body is the great unraveling. And my last sentence is, my mood of late reminds me of a slip that has lost its elasticity and fallen to my ankles. Even if I pull it up, it will not stay up. Feeling just this constant feeling of, how can it go on?
Could Bridget repeat, because we
We
kind of,
really can't hear.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll pass this around.
Pass this around.
Much better, thank you.
What I said is, what is resonating in my mind and body is the great unraveling. And my last sentence is, my mood of late reminds me of a slip that has lost its elasticity and fallen to my ankles. Even if I pull it up, it will not stay up. So, who wants
It's a
to?
great image.
That's a killer metaphor.
My pen worked very well.
Congratulations.
It's one of the three.
I noted that in what I wrote that there's a part of me that wants the business as usual to be like magically turn out okay. That feels like kind of a younger part of me. Because it was kind of, it's like the default we're born into. At least I felt that way. But then I reflected more deeply and I was like, actually, I'm a child of the 70s. And I think I'm more about the great turning, and so I just wrote down like an inquiry of how can I cultivate a greater awareness of the great turning instead of kind of reflexively hoping everything's going to be okay with things as they are just continuing to go forward.
Yeah, it's interesting to notice your defaults, right? Some of us lean into that place kind of naturally, hope and optimism about the great turning, and some of us are, where do you default?
Well, and there's a way we can use our practice in that way too, because if we just take care of our little daily tasks and we get our laundry folded and, we just pay attention to present moment experience, we don't have to know about all of that, right? So it can be a way of hiding.
And you can kind of stay small.
Yeah.
Oh, we got here, Michael. I think that's you there.
Yeah, that's Michael.
Yeah, thank you. The thing that surprised me is that I wrote something called the black hole of business as usual. And even in my meditations, I seem to constantly be going back to the same things over and over again, a place of fear and insecurity, but it has stability to it. And it is so compelling that venturing out from it requires a kind of bravery that I'm oftentimes reluctant to do. But as my practice continues, I find there are places where it begins to come out, the bravery. And it's not so bad as long as I still have my black hole of business as usual to go back to. Well,
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Black holes and slips. We've got some very good metaphors going so far. Ellen, I think you're.
Yeah, the phrase that stood out for me was
we were born for these times.
Mm. I really want to believe you.
But the black hole is still there.
I really do believe that. And I learned that from Peg during the first Trump administration. It was quite shocking to me. We were all in total disbelief and despair. And it was like, wow, that's right. We were born for these times. And we, yeah, I thoroughly believe that.
Susan.
Well, the part that resonated most with me was the great unraveling. But the last thing I wrote was just reflecting on the others was that the business as usual seems cheerfully wrong-headed and out of date. I think about that as like, there's always solutions through science and technology, and we're in charge and all of that. And it seems benign in a way, but just, compared to what's going on, just the kind of violence and ugliness that's going on, which is so irrational, it seems the business as usual seems kind of, I don't know, kind of can do, in a kind of wrong-headed way. And I also would say that the great turning seems incredibly far off to me.
Other reflections?
So I wrote that I find myself in the great unraveling way too much, but I really deep down believe in the great turning. I think that it's going to happen. And the sentence, and part of that is that I feel like I'm hopelessly in the minority in the world. There's just how are these few of us going to do it? But I wrote a sentence that said, I think about all the people who are working, believing, praying, meditating, coming together, protesting, helping. And, it feels like if we all keep doing that, we all keep coming together, there's hope somewhere, somehow. Did you think?
Sure. I think I'm more on the passive end than the fixer end. And I don't know.
You're a therapist.
I'm an accepting therapist. That's what I do.
You go ahead.
Very accepting, yeah.
But pay me.
So I was thinking like, this great unraveling and this great turning. I have the thought that, it may not include, the great turning may not include like humans, it may, but life and impermanence and emptiness and non-self and all of that will continue, and we'll be part of all of that, whether human form is there or human form isn't there. So that's pretty passive, I guess. Like, well, it'll turn out how it'll turn out. And I kind of had, similar to, kind of cultivating an awareness, not kind of going business as usual. Like, I feel like our practice is countercultural, but also is it's not, it's not an easy one, and it doesn't seem to be a popular one. We don't have like droves of people, even though meditation is helpful, right? But it's challenging. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Last call. Oh, Kim too. Yeah, okay.
Slightly different take, anyway. So what I wrote was the turmoil we're experiencing as a global phenomenon, a polycrisis, as they say, is the death throes of the business as usual worldview. It will not go gently into that good night, so we're getting all this violent thrashing It's death throes. Consequently, the collapse of that worldview inevitably brings the dread, horror, and panic of the great unraveling. So it's, of course, a terrible mess and a source of widespread suffering and death. Bodhisattvas, however, recognize the reality we face with clarity and dispassion, with curiosity, not terror, about what we must meet now. They're undistractable in their laser focus on the relief of suffering and the liberation of all beings, humans, animals, trees, rivers, mountains, forests, the sky, and the oceans. The Great Turning is a cosmic view, a stance for the well-being of the whole cosmos. And I think that's what comes out of this, what I would call inevitable but productive destruction that we're facing. So, and just as you said, Jess, it may be that the fungi save us, like life on Earth. Yeah.
Mhm.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah.
I like one more person online too.
Oh, good. I like to think about art, and I was known artists who said, they just do one painting their whole life, and are they thinking they'll get deeper or better at it? But there's always that question for the artist: are they going to repeat themselves, or are they going to try something new? And I was telling Nate the other day that Washington University bought the abstract expressionists when they were very young, and they were really innovative and beautiful. And then most of these artists just continued doing the same painting, but without the vitality that the original ones had. So that's always a challenge for an artist: when to repeat themselves and when to start go in a new direction.
When do they have a style, and then that gets
and especially if
fossilized,
it sells.
Yeah.
And one famous artist came when I was a graduate student, and I said, well, suppose you were doing this series and nobody liked it. Would you keep doing it? Because that's what my teachers had told me to do. You keep doing it even. And he said, I'd instantly change. And this was such a sacrilege, especially in the 60s. I'd instantly do something different if it didn't sell. So anyway, that's it. Rosemary.
Rosemary's got the last word.
Okay, so I said that there's a sense of the great unraveling, certainly, but I do I do have a sense of turning as well. Maybe not the turning, but the great turning is made up of two things. I seem very clear about this. Knowledge, that we all are interconnected and care enough to learn about what's going on and what the threats are in our environment and how we can limit the damage. Just stepping back and taking in our maybe, I'm not sure, maybe our interconnectedness, maybe taking in our interconnectedness, which is not a choice, but a reality, which if ignored is, you said to just keep writing, so I was writing pretty fast and
Carry on.
I can't read it. Which if ignored is dangerous to the whole and of all it something. Something about having respect for everything in our daily, the second thing was respect for everything in our daily lives. So how we manage our kitchens, limiting paper, limiting plastic, buying products with paper packaging versus plastic, if you can. All of these little things. So those are my two areas of the great turning. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, all of you, for your offerings. I think my invitation to you at this point is really to just pay attention to which story are you telling yourself and which story are you living day to day, even moment by moment? Are you living out of sort of fear and despair? Are you doing business as usual? Are you defaulting into that? Or are you enacting the great turning and embodying it in some way? These are all opportunities. So we can think of Macy's work as kind of a spine, a thing that can guide us, and we can let it resound through us and pay attention to how these living systems function and bring new attention to it. And when we think of choosing life, as Macy does, when we think about it, it can feel like a call to action, but it's more than that. It's certainly something to accomplish in the world, but it also is practicing in the stillness of shikantaza. To sit in the simplicity of just sitting is to enter directly into that very web that she's describing. So each time we sit, we resist that numbing drift into those spaces of despair. So I think that for me is the link of really saying, sitting without adornment, without a particular goal, just being present on our little cushions here together, presents us with that opportunity to know the ecological self. And part of what we're going to do together is we're going to explore a particular chant throughout the course of our time together. And there are a couple little pieces of the chant that I just wanted to share with you and see how you respond to in light of Macy's work. So this is the Ziju Samai, and here are a couple of the pieces that I've been sitting with for the past couple of days. And I'm curious what resonates for you. Because such broad awakening resonates back to you and helps you inconceivably, you will in Zazen unmistakably drop away body and mind, cutting off the various defiled thoughts from the past and realize essential Buddha Dharma. Thus you will raise up Buddha activity at innumerable places of Buddha Tathagatas everywhere, cause everyone to have the opportunity of ongoing Buddhahood, and vigorously uplift the ongoing Buddha Dharma. And here's the piece where Macy comes to life for me. Because earth, grass, trees, walls, tiles, and pebbles all engage in Buddha activity, those who receive the benefit of wind and water caused by them are inconceivably helped by the Buddha's guidance, splendid and unthinkable, and awaken intimately to themselves. Those who receive these water and fire benefits spread the Buddha's guidance based on original awakening. Because of this, all those who live with you and speak with you will obtain endless Buddha virtue and will unroll widely inside and outside the entire universe the endless, unremitting, unthinkable, unnameable Buddha Dharma. I don't know about you, but I need to hear that on a maybe hourly basis in light of life as it's happening. But for now, I thought this might be an invitation to just consider that when we're actually sitting together, that's what we're enacting. So pause there and for any reflections or questions or things that are moving for you.
Who wrote that?
That's Dogen.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's in our chant book.
Oh yeah, you'll get to know it real well.
That'll be our morning chant.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, great.
yeah, good to hear it again.
Mm-hmm.
Can you read it again, Nate?
Sure. Because such broad awakening resonates back to you and helps you inconceivably, you will in Zazen unmistakably drop away body and mind, cutting off the various defiled thoughts from the past and realize essential Buddha Dharma. Thus you will raise up Buddha activity at innumerable practice places of Buddha Tathagatas everywhere, cause everyone to have the opportunity of ongoing Buddhahood, and vigorously uplift the ongoing Buddha Dharma. Because earth, grass, trees, walls, tiles, and pebbles all engage in Buddha activity, those who receive the benefit of wind and water caused by them are inconceivably helped by the Buddha's guidance, splendid and unthinkable, and awaken intimately to themselves. Those who receive these water and fire benefits spread the Buddha's guidance based on original awakening. Because of this, all those who live with you and speak with you will obtain endless Buddha virtue and will enroll widely inside and outside the entire universe, the endless, unremitting, unthinkable, unnameable Buddha Dharma. Got a couple minutes for any questions or reflections you have.
It's hard to follow Jogan.
Tough act to follow.
And so we're gonna dig into that text more and more, or do we get a chance to study that text, or is this my one chance?
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
But we'll listen to it. We'll get to chant it every morning, at the very least.
I have a question. So, yeah, it's, I don't know if I caught all that, but, so Nate,
Microphone.
if you were to, if you were to explain that to your 6-year-old, how would you do so? What would you say?
We're all part of one beautiful thing. And then I'd be outside showing him how we're all part of it, talking through how we're all part of one beautiful thing. I'd probably start there.
I think children naturally feel this way. That the trees have feelings, that the stones have feelings, that and I remember this vividly as a child, recognizing that everything was alive, everything. It sort of gets grilled out of us, but I think it's easy to explain to a child. It's hard to explain to an adult, though.
Also, everything is as big as everything else.
Mm.
The smallest thing is as big as the.
What I was curious about was the part where he says, you just by talking to other people will spread, and I was like, I can see how someone would take that a little too seriously about themselves, and the danger of thinking like, I'm gonna be spreading the Dharma because I sit, like you could get a little bit cocky.
But what if it's not proselytizing so much as sparing the world from your potential despair or your anger and offering that?
That's a better way of looking. It's not what you, oh, sorry. Yeah. It's not exactly what you, you're not this great benefactor spreading wisdom. You're just not fucking things up more.
Yeah. It's a good start.
I mean, I'm sure there's more to it, but part of me was like, yeah, I'm gonna go out and I don't have to worry about screwing up my kids, because according to this, if I come sit, they'll just absorb my, but it's not that simple.
But that is a part of it. I mean, it literally is a part of it.
Has sitting changed your parenting?
I'm not sure. I don't know, actually. I'm so thickly into my parenting, and I have been practicing here for so long that I'm sure they're connected, but I couldn't put my finger on how exactly. It's a mystery.
Well, you don't know because you don't know what the alternative would have been. You know.
True. Good point.
Yeah. But I know that my son can tell you exactly when I started. Exactly. Yeah. Yes, and he learned to say to me things like, breathe, mother. Remember your practice. Like, You didn't even have a practice. But it's the essence of you that your children get.
And is that what he's talking about? It's our essence. It's not that we're wise teachers. It's just more of a emanating. Is that
Yes.
kind of what he's saying?
It's what you're radiating.
Okay.
And I think about the practice as just unhindering that natural radiance. You know, it's not becoming something special that's already there, but we hinder it a lot with our, opinions and judgments and ideas and concepts, and we just hinder that.
That was really useful what you said. It's not about becoming special. It's actually kind of just unveiling what we already are.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I often have someone come to me in practice discussion and say, I just want to be special. And I have to say to them, you are special, just like everyone else. Which is kind of confounding, But it's true, right? You are special, just like everyone else. And when you see that, you start to see, oh, people are just confused. They get in their own way.
Michael.
So the thing that I've noticed is that the more I practice, the more opportunities I have for actually being present. And for me, that's the essence of this whole thing. Because when I'm present with myself and with people around me, there's such a change in the energy of the interaction and what happens. And I have to keep practicing because it's hard to be present. So that's all.